I'm very pleased to be here on My Magical Thing with Chris Park, druid, artist, musician, storyteller, and beekeeper. Chris, it's lovely to have you here.
Well, thank you, Julian. It's nice to be here too in this small screen box, algorithm, and your starry children's curtains. Good to see you. Good to see you. And I'm disappointed. We're not doing this in person, in the flesh. And I,
Another
I could
time.
say to you, you show me yours and I'll show you mine, and all that kind of stuff. Make all those jokes. But here we are on a computer. That's is a part of this current life we're living, isn't it?
It is indeed. It is indeed. But it does give me the opportunity to say, Chris, please may we see your magical thing?
Aha. Yes, you may see a picture of it, and this will become clear in a minute. So I've got it right here in my lap, and I just did a quick sketch of it. Here it is,
Oh, gosh.
and sometimes it's this way up, and sometimes it's this way up, and it is a rattle or a crotal, fertility rattle. Crotal is an old word for rattle, and it does relate to the word scrotum, and this is uh, the shape of a bull's testicles, very similar to the shape of an acorn as well, and it's turned in oak. It's beautifully made and very phallic, obviously, and it was given to me. I've been racking my brains. What am I going to show Julian? And I thought, well, this particular magical thing has a very special flavor about it because it was passed on to me by someone that had it passed on to them with a particular. It had three conditions, and one of the conditions, unfortunately, is to never let it be on the cameras, because at the time I was given it, I was living in an Iron Age village in West Wales as an Iron Age person, and this happened over 20 years ago. It was the winter of 2000, one of the wettest autumns on record. That's probably changed now, and 17 of us volunteered. Signed our lives away and volunteered to live as Iron Age people. It was after Ronald Hutton stepped onto a druid camp, on a farm over here many years ago with a bit of paper saying, well, the BBC are doing a documentary. They're looking for people with knowledge of ancient traditions and, Iron Age belief systems and druids and that kind of stuff. Anybody feels like volunteering can. So Anna and I sort of put a proposal together, and then lots of different things happened, and nothing happened for a while, and then suddenly they said, oh, Chris, you want to come? And so I said yes. So I stepped into this Iron Age village thinking that we weren't even going to have houses, we're going to have to build our own houses, but it was Iron Age luxury. We had goats and sheep and pigs and honey, and firewood stores and peas and beans and kale, and of course clothes, and it was being filmed by the BBC. It was called Surviving the Iron Age in Britain. I think it traveled the world differently. And half the time, most of the time, the cameras weren't there. We just left to our own devices. And we had a guy called Martin Elphick, who was like he's by profession, he's a psychiatrist in Oxford. And he had been in a project in the 1970s called Living in the Past, down in your neck of the woods somewhere, where they built an Iron Age village, and lots of them in the 1970s lived as Iron Age people and had magical experiences. And when he was there, this was given to him, this rattle. A local druidess made it and passed it to Martin and said, look, you're obviously looking after everybody here. This is for you. And on three conditions, I'll give this to you. She said, you must never open it to look inside because it rattles. And I've often wondered, and possibly quartz crystals or, gnarly old acorns or things like that. But it's a proper rattle. And you must never act the goat with it. So to use it, stupidly, frivolously, foolishly, whatever, and you must never let it on the cameras, because they were being filmed as well for a 1970s documentary called Living in the Past. So he came on our project as like a kind of psychoanalyst, I suppose, to look at all the dynamics of all these people that were thrown together in a, what do you call it, reality TV type situation, but also very much about ancient tech. And I became interested in native British wisdom traditions through as environmental contemporary spiritualities. not to relive the past. But suddenly I found myself in this ancient place, living without phones, without even glass to look at the world through. We were always, in the elements and cooking on fires and grinding wheat into bread, or butchering rams. I think I'd just come out of a vegan housing cooperative, with like Roger Hallam, people like that, and jumped into the Iron Age, and there I was sort of skinning things and using my urine to cure that thing, brain tanning and all this kind of stuff. And it was wonderful. And I really felt this coming home sort of feeling there. And it was absolutely brilliant. And so he was there to kind of, I guess, help the BBC with all the kind of write up and how they might make a TV program out of it. And two of his children were there as well, so there was like a legacy. And there were other youngsters whose parents had been in that earlier project. And just something, he saw some quality in me somehow, and he said, "Oh, Chris, I've got something for you, and I'm going to come back in 2 days' time. I'm going to give it to you." "Oh, thanks." And he just said, "Just take a back seat," he said, "and I just keep an eye on everyone." I was like, "Okay." And I was there as a kind of druid, so it sort of felt like, okay, that's what I'll do. And a couple of days later, he turned up, and sort of shiftily, we sort of went off the hill fort and down to the spring, which had all these effigies and offerings there, and it was a sacred place where the ancient. So we were cooking on the hearth fires that these ancient British people were cooking on, and living in their houses built in the same post holes that they, it was absolute. Like today's life is so sensational, full of colors and sounds and music and smells and tastes. And to live there, like you just come home and everything settles, and then you begin, your sixth sense opens up, and you begin to see the spirits more fully, and your dreams are more present because you're not watching telly or even reading books. There's no text or anything, and we didn't go anywhere, for 7 weeks. How rare is that? We didn't get in a car or a train and go somewhere. Really immersive experience. And he said, "Here it is," and he passed me this crowtail, this rattle, and told me the legacy of that. And he said, and he started crying. Well, before he gave it to me, he just burst into tears. And I thought, there's this grown man we've only just met, and here he is sort of crying, and it's a really emotional moment for him. And he told me that he'd had this all his life, since that project, and getting to know his children later on, it had been in their house, up on a cupboard, and they're never allowed to touch it. And he'd shaken it over their pigs before to help them, get more pigs. And I've got 5 kids, so it works, and it's this powerful object that, of course, brings, and we use in ceremony and brings fertility to the moment and fecundity to the mind, the fire in the head and the heart and the loins and all of that. So it's a special thing, and I'm getting on a bit, so I'm not sure if I'll have any more children in this incarnation. And so there's a part of me is also looking forward to the day when I pass it on, when I give this kind of wooden turned rattle that was, and I forget the woman's name. There was some druidess down in the south somewhere who made it and gave it to Martin. He gave it to me. So at some point, when there's another group of people living in this ancient way, some cocky young upstart or some sassy young sorceress, I'll sort of see them and think, oh, this is going to pass it on to them. So that is Julian, my magical thing. And I'm sorry that you can't see it, but now you understand why. And part of me thinks, well, did that mean just for that documentary? But then another part of me is quite likes the idea of those taboos. And so every now and again, I'll see someone who's got a photograph of it by accident, and I'll sort of frown a little bit and just let it go. Yeah. Maybe you can hear it. Maybe I can shake it around the top there.
That's amazing. Chris, that's fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that, and also keeping the faith with the oath that was given to the druid who passed it through that lineage, and the opportunity to even hear the sound and to know that its presence is here, and to hear your story is a real honor. Thank you very, very much, my friend. It's most appreciated.
You're welcome. You're very welcome. And it's really satisfied a cheeky part of me to be able to say, no, you can't see my magical thing as well. So thank you very much.
Chris, thanks so much. Cheers, man.
Yeah, lots of love. Cheerio.
Bye-bye.